This is one of the notebooks that has helped me organise my life and fix my brain, with the simple checklist system that I use to make sure I'm moving forward on everything I want to do. The whole system's taken me a couple of years to fine tune, and actually a lot of that has been about simplifying and refining it, so taking out what doesn't work rather than putting more and more stuff in. Over the next few minutes I'm going to lay out the whole thing, and then I'm going to explain why I use these notebooks as well. So this one's just the cheapest decent sized notebook I can find, spiral bound because it lays flat, and every day I start a new page. So what goes on that page? Well, at the top I put my keystone habits, which are kind of the most important non-work things I want to do every day. So like a lot of people, I used to keep track of how many days in a row I hit my intended habits, like going off the idea that it's important to keep the streak alive. And I just don't do that anymore. Firstly, most of the habits that I actually want to keep going on are pretty well locked into my schedule now. So I work out at least 3 times a week, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at least twice a week, I read every day, and I practice piano most days. So instead of trying to keep a streak, I just write down those 4 keystone habits every day to remind myself that they're important. And if there's anything specific I want to work on, maybe because I couldn't finish a submission in BJJ, or because I feel like I've been neglecting my sight reading or my pull-ups, I just write it down here. So most of the rest of the page is made up of what I call my first thing list, which is the first thing I need to do on every project I'm going to tackle that day. So for instance, on this one specific day, I knew I needed to finish an article, start work on a treasure hunt for my 7-year-old, start on a big project that I can't talk too much about right now, and then shoot some B-roll for a video I'm working on. But obviously all those goals are quite big and diffuse, so actually what that meant in practical terms was I had to check one specific study and what I understood about it with the study author that was standing in my way of finishing the whole piece. I had to decide on a treasure hunt theme. I knew I just had to start writing an outline for the big project, and I needed to pick where I was going to do the B-roll, which was me walking along a canal. The theme involved an evil rabbit master criminal, in case you're interested. So everything goes on that list, including the little jobs that seem like they would take less time to do than it actually takes to put them on the list, like follow up on this email or pay that invoice. Because firstly, writing all that stuff down clears it out of your head, which I find makes me a lot calmer and also gives me kind of the mental bandwidth to worry about the things I actually need to worry about. And secondly, having the small jobs that are easy or stressful or both written down lets you get them out of the way early to build momentum for tackling the harder thing. By the way, another tip at this stage is that I use little check boxes next to my first things instead of just crossing them out, because firstly I get the satisfaction of taking them off, and secondly I can easily see what I've already done. But there's one more thing I do at this stage, and it's probably something you've done yourself if you've ever worked at like a medium-sized to large company, and that's to sit down and check in on the status of every project that I'm doing for the sort of medium to long term. So that's my actual paid work that feeds my family, this YouTube channel, my newsletter, which you should definitely subscribe to, and then 4 is like a bigger long-term project that hopefully I'll be able to talk about on this channel pretty soon. And so at this stage, I'll just sort of mentally check in on those 4 projects, just to make sure that I'm not neglecting any of them when I'm focusing on the others. So like maybe I don't have enough paid freelance work coming in over the next month, so I need to pitch a bit more, or I don't feel like I've got enough ideas for future YouTube videos, so then I need to worry about ideation a little bit. I also check in on family stuff at this stage because that's something that's really important to me. And sometimes I'll go, oh, okay, I haven't actually done anything fun with the boy at the weekend for a while, or I haven't done anything nice for my wife in a couple of weeks. And so this is the time to think about that and maybe address it. Your mileage might vary on that one because you're probably at a different stage of your life from me, and so maybe it's more important to organise stuff with your friends, or find someone to go on a date with, or check in with your mum. You should call your mum. But I think it's important not to let this stuff get ignored in favour of working all the time. And so if I feel like all these things are covered and they're ticking over nicely, that's great, I don't need to worry about it. But if I run through that list and feel like I've been neglecting something, then that's the time to put another thing on the first thing list, which might be brainstorm YouTube ideas for 10 minutes, or go through your ideas folder to see what might work for an article. And then the last thing to say about the daily notebook is that I really do try to make it like one of the first things I do in the morning before I do stuff like cleaning the house or going on the school run. Because I find if I do that, then it kind of brings anything else that I'm worried about to the surface, and it also lets my thoughts about all the stuff I have to do kind of percolate while I go about my other odd jobs that don't take too much mental bandwidth. And then that lets me pick one or two things that are really stressing me out to prioritize during the rest of the day, but it also kind of gives me the mental bandwidth to think about things a little bit and then hit the ground running once my odd jobs are done. And that's the daily notebook covered. Honestly, I know that feels like a lot of unnecessary writing, but the amount it pays off in terms of brain space and clarity over the rest of the day, I genuinely think it's really worth spending that 5 or 10 minutes it takes me to do. Okay, so this one also sits on my desk most of the time, and it's a lot less complicated than the daily notebook. It's basically where I keep the details of every project I'm working on, and all it does is sit on my desk as a clear visual reminder of everything I need to do. So when I get commissioned to write a piece, it goes in the notebook. When I decide I'm going to write a YouTube script, it goes in the notebook. When I have an idea for a newsletter, I just start writing it straight. No, I'm joking, it goes in the notebook. And quite honestly, you could do this one on a computer, and I do have a spreadsheet where I keep a lot of this stuff. But what I've found over time is that by keeping everything actually visible, rather than hidden somewhere like within a tab or just in a Google Drive folder that I'm not always looking at, it's a real clear visual reminder of everything that I need to do, and it means that things don't fall along the wayside. I tick stuff off as I go, and I break down anything that's more than about a week's work into smaller chunks, so that nothing's sitting around for months at a time and I can still keep ticking stuff off regularly. And if I need to move on to a new page but I've still got outstanding stuff on the last page, I just copy them over. And that's notebook 2, a lot easier than notebook 1. So notebook 3 is the keeper. This is like a really nice one that I got off my dad, and it's the one where I put all the stuff that I want to actually keep track of and remember for the long term. So this is where I write down recommendations from other people that I respect, which gives me kind of a handy list of stuff to look out for or watch or read. But something I've also been doing recently is keeping like a bucket list of stuff that I really want to read or see before I die in the back. And again, this is stuff that you could keep in just a Word document, but I keep it in here for a couple of reasons. So firstly, the fact that it's kind of a physical object means that I have to be selective about what I put in it. There's not unlimited space, and so I have to actually think about the things I'm including, and I know that there's no deleting them, like I would have to cross them out and it would make things kind of messy. So I do actually consider things before I put them in, and I really don't like crossing things out or ripping pages out, so I usually stick with stuff once it's in there. But secondly, it's just there. It's always like around as a long-term reminder of my like plans and goals and the things I want to do. And the fact that it's like a physical object that has weight and presence, I find really helpful. And then there's one final thing that I use this third notebook for, which is as a place to scribble down the most relevant quotes and the most interesting ideas I find wherever I find them. But this video is getting quite long already, and I've already explained that system in a lot more detail elsewhere, so if you'd like to learn more about it, you can find it right here. Thanks for watching.